everyone. Welcome to another episode of the QubicaAMF Tech Tip Podcast. This is a weekly podcast where we take you on a journey through the fascinating world of bowling technology and beyond. As always, I'm your host, Orly, and we have a very special guest today, returning guest, Kyle Calcote. Kyle, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Orly. How are you?
I'm doing great. Kyle, can you first off, let everyone know your title here at QubicaAMF and what you do within that title?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually the online training team supervisor. So my team is responsible for creating all of the e-learning that you may have taken when you're first getting training for our products. We also create many of the training videos that you might see on the QubicaAMF Maximization Resources website. We host all of the virtual training sessions on Wednesdays and some other days for like Tech Wizard and stuff like that. So we always have those weekly. And then we also do a lot of the actual training documents, how-to documents, that kind of thing that get uploaded to the QMR as well.
Yeah, and when it comes to those, virtual trainings, those are great. I've took some before, and they're just, I think of them almost as a live tech tip, where like we're talking about how to do something, but you can jump in and ask questions. So, yeah, and you're there with the trainer basically, and they get to answer your questions, and it's kind of like one-on-one time. So they're great.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably the biggest plus to having those is that access to a trainer. And of course, there might be a couple other customers in the call with you, but just being able to download a little information from the trainer, but then also ask any questions you might have is definitely a super powerful tool.
Yeah, and what's kind of cool too when you have other guests, other customers in there, is sometimes they'll ask a question, and it triggers in your head like, oh yeah, I was trying to learn that too, or I didn't think of that, or it helps you think of another question. So it's always good to be in there with other people and just kind of hear what other centers are going through, or somebody that might be a little bit more experienced. You might be new to a product, they might have had it for a while, and you hear their questions, you're like, okay, great. So
yeah, absolutely. And everyone has a slightly different way of implementing, and you can always learn from each other. And honestly, that's probably where the best learning happens, is when we get those groups and they get discussing on how one person does it and someone else does it slightly different. And then it's always just really interesting to see everyone's take on it. So
yeah, 100%. So Kyle, today the reason I brought you on is, I've been hearing that on the QubicaAMF Maximization Resource website, you can now get notifications, and so I thought I would have you come on and talk about how they can sign up to get the notifications, why they might want those notifications. I know me, I love shopping for sports cards on eBay, so I'm always all about notifications. They might be going off during work, but I got to make sure I put on mute, so I make sure I don't miss those cards. But anyways, that's besides the point. No, they're good to get, because you never know what's coming out or what's new. So I'm going to kind of let you talk about why people, maybe first off, tell us a little bit about notifications and maybe why people might want to turn those on.
Yeah, of course. And probably the biggest reason I would say that you want to turn them on is you don't want to have to go to the website every day or every week, or keep checking back to see if there's something new or if a manual got updated. So that's the biggest reason why go ahead, and any of those products that you have in your center, I would definitely go ahead and click the notification bell that is now there, so that anytime a manual is updated, anytime we put out a new video or a new training how-to, you are the first to know as soon as it gets uploaded, and you're not having to check back, and it's going to save you time but still keep you in the loop. And as you're navigating around the QMR, most customers probably have already seen, we already had a flag setting so that you could save a piece of content to look at later. We had a share button and also a print button. And now next to those, you'll also see a bell icon, and that's what you would actually click to turn on notifications. So if the bell is clear, it's not filled in gray, the notifications are not on. And if it's gray, then you have turned on those notifications. And like I said, anytime that we upload something new to that section of the website, or we make an update to a manual, it'll automatically notify you via email. It'll give you the link directly to the resource that was either uploaded or changed, so you can get to it super easy.
Go ahead.
No, the only thing I was going to say, obviously, be a little bit careful what you're actually turning the notifications on for. I would definitely drill down into the menus a little bit and get like very nitty gritty on this particular pin spotter that you have, Or, if you're a Square customer, make sure that you go all the way into like the Square payments or Square point of sale section and turn the notifications on there so that you're not getting inundated with, a bunch of notifications that maybe weren't super relevant to the products that you have.
All right. And was there anything else you wanted to cover today since we got you here?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There is two other things. So I don't know if a lot of customers know, but we do also provide content in other languages. So if English is not necessarily your first language, we do have a language filter at the top right-hand corner of the site, and you can set it to whatever your primary language is. Now, if you set it to something like Spanish or Italian, you will still see all of the content that's available in English, so you're never going to be missing out. But the site is smart enough that it will filter all of your chosen language to the top. So if we have that particular resource in that language, you'll see it first, and then you'll see the English version listed below. And then the other kind of tip that I had is actually setting your browser to open the PDFs that are on the website instead of actually downloading them straight off the bat. And I say this for a couple reasons. One, I always recommend going back to the website, making sure that you're looking at the latest version of the document. So having it open instead of download is a good way that, you're ensuring that. Also, if you're like me, you forget that you downloaded it a while ago and then you go and you re-download it again. And now I have the manual 8 different times sitting on my computer, which can also be confusing and, just takes up unnecessary space. And all the browsers are a little bit different. I'll go ahead and kind of give the way that you would do this in Chrome, because that is by far what most people are using when they're accessing the QMR. So you'll go into your Chrome settings and navigate into the privacy and security area. And then you'll want to go into site settings, and you might have to go into like an additional content area. But then you'll see where it lists PDFs, and you'll want to pick to actually open them in the browser instead of downloading them. And again, this is a slightly different process for every browser, but they're all relatively the same.
And speaking of notifications, I don't think I've ever brought this up, but I'm sure they know, but you can, on any podcast, you could subscribe or set it up for notifications. I don't think I ever mentioned that, but if you don't do that, just know we're here every Tuesday. So make sure you're coming back, because these shows are all, there's a lot of great information. Kyle gave some great information today, and there's so many other guests we've had on. We did, I think we're already at like 60, almost 70 episodes probably. So,
yeah,
you can just go back and listen to these.
How much they've, grown, and they always have great information. So definitely subscribe to those as well.
Yeah, thanks. I didn't even pay him to say that, so thanks for that, Kyle. Yeah, again, make sure you're going back and listen to those past shows. Share it with anyone you think that this could help. We're here to help, and if you ever have any show topics, feel free to reach out. Reach out to us on Facebook or send us an email, and we will get it covered. We have a lot of professionals that could, it's easy for them to cover these things. So again, thank you for listening, everyone, and thank you, Kyle, for joining.
Yeah, thank you for having me today, Orly, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Thanks, and we will talk to everyone soon. Bye-bye.